Hi guys, welcome back to the Social Tune. And even though the year-end list is fast approaching and I still have a lot of albums that I still need to review, I made a promise to my favorite band and damn it, I'm going to keep it. And so here's my review for the third studio album by Marianas Trench, Ever After. If you were to ask a lot of fans of this band what their favorite album of theirs was, I wouldn't be surprised if many of them picked this. It's a very pop-sounding album for sure, but its sound is much more expansive, resulting in a listen that is grander overall than their last album. On top of that, it's an album that tells a story, a fairy tale, in the mystical kingdom of Toyland. And yet, personally, while I do absolutely adore it, it never quite reached the heights of Masterpiece Theatre for me. It was definitely successful up in Canada, but noticeably less so than their previous effort. The result is a damn fantastic pop album with huge ambitions, which more often than not does live up to them, but does also have one or two missteps. With that said though, it's still excellent and would have easily made my top 5 albums of 2011. So let's find out why, starting with the title track. Now this band has always had a talent for opening up their albums with a bang, and this one is no exception. With that said though, while this is definitely epic with the pounding drums, the frenetic strings, Josh's incredible singing, the phenomenal harmonies, the switch-ups in instrumentation and pace all across the song, that all results in an opener that is 6 minutes long and takes advantage of every second of it, I'll admit that of their opening tracks, it's probably my least favorite. Still amazing, but when compared to, say, anything Masterpiece Theatre 1 and especially Astoria, it can't help but fall very slightly short. Still amazing though, definitely an awesome way to set the stage. Now we get the first single from this album, and it is wonderful. The melody is phenomenal and gets stuck in your head so easily, with a fantastic chorus that carries promise and temptation. And it's here that we also see the first glimpses of a real narrative. Basically, in Ever After, we see that Josh arrives in Toyland and needs to find a way to get back to his own world. But at the time, Toyland is under the tyrannical rule of the Queen, who has usurped the throne from her husband the King and stolen the heart of Princess Porcelain. And don't give me that look, it's a fairy tale. And on this song, she attempts to seduce Josh to her side, insisting that he can't make an informed decision before he sees what he could have. It's a great song that serves as a real tempter in more ways than one. Continuing the story, by now marks the end of a relationship. Story-wise, it has Josh refusing the Queen, since if he did accept, he would never be able to return home, but on its own, it still stands as a damn great song, with its great strings, mournful acoustic guitar, and Josh delivering one hell of a tragic performance. But this also reveals the one big problem with this album, namely that, for as epic as the story can be, and for as ambitious as the album is, it really doesn't need it. Frankly, pretty much every single song on this album stands on its own incredibly well without the added context being needed. Which means when you have that story added in, it feels a little too busy, and it made writing this review really difficult. And hell, there are some songs that are amazing on their own, but in the context of the story, make a lot less sense. For instance, for some reason, I convinced myself for the longest time that this song was from Masterpiece Theatre, which is definitely a compliment on a musical level with a great punchy groove that explodes into an amazing chorus with some truly impressive electronic production. But lyrically, it's very similar to Haven't Had Enough, which frankly is just a better song. Again, still great on its own, but it doesn't really feel essential. Plus, it's a little unfortunate that it's immediately followed up by 4 of the best songs from the album in a row. Desperate Measures is easily one of the band's catchiest songs and is such an earworm. On top of that, it has a fantastic chorus that any fan of pop music can really appreciate, and a desperation to its tone that is pretty fitting. Plus, in one line, it renders one of their previous songs, Shake Tramp, completely perfunctory. Have a piece of American dream, open up and swallow on your knees and say thank you. This line is just incredible and reveals that this song has its roots in the themes from their previous album about artists being mistreated. And personally, while I do absolutely adore songs like Celebrity Status, this song actually does manage to outdo even that one a little. Truly phenomenal. If you want an example of one of Josh's best ever vocal performances, and a song that builds in a way that is truly jaw-dropping in its beauty, this is it right here. And I'll admit, that wasn't always the case for me. It took me quite a few listens to really appreciate this song. It didn't grab me at first. And now, it may just be one of my favorite songs on the entire album. It starts out as an absolutely gorgeous acoustic ballad with slight touches of electronic elements and gorgeous backing vocals that builds and builds until the electric guitar and the drums break free in a way that is really reminiscent of the title track of Astoria, and it is wonderful. Add to that it also doubles as a love song and the moment in the story where Josh discovers Princess Porcelain and realizes that she's just like him, not from Toyland but from our world, and you have a truly amazing song that deserves to be held up as one of the band's best. And yet, it may face some stiff competition from... Many fans of this band would call this one of their absolute favourites, and I am right there with them. In terms of power ballads, this is a prime example with a serious emphasis on power. The blend of the buzzing synths and the guitars is wonderful and matches the creeping piano line really well. And most of all, you have our vocalists who all do an incredible job, as the vocal mixing and the harmonies on this song are truly excellent. And lyrically, it goes into how he feels that this girl that he broke up with should feel more regret, rather than just immediately sleeping with another guy without feeling anything. Which unfortunately brings us to another problem with the narrative. Why not just make it a love story? Seriously, if you just treated this as an album about a breakup and its aftermath, I think it would fit a lot better. But hey, it's not this song's fault, which on its own is pretty damn incredible. Okay, if there is one song that could win me over more than Porcelain, this is it. I mean it, while there are definitely more complex and grander songs here, in terms of pure pop music, this is just perfection. The groove is just undeniable, especially with the swing feeling to the drums, and lyrically, it panders to every single nerd and nervous teenager out there. Basically, it's about how you stutter when talking to someone you like, finding it hard to get the words out. That's just adorable, and the addition of the stuttering that Josh adds on the chorus only adds to it. I'm not usually a fan of repetition and elongated syllables, but here it actually does make sense from a lyrical perspective. Truly a wonderful song, well played, gentlemen. Okay, if I had to pick a least favorite song from this album, this would be it. I mean, it's still good, but personally the repetition is a bit much and the chorus doesn't really jump out at me. The lyrics do fit the story though, as it has Josh and Princess Porcelain trying to instigate a revolution to overthrow the Queen with her toy soldiers. Plus, it also doubles as a song professing loyalty to a loved one forever after. Like I said, not bad, but they have done better.
Wait
Okay, just like Stutter, any awkward kid in high school can relate to this. It's a song lamenting being a crush's second choice or being on the B team. It's nowhere near one of the band's best songs, but I also won't deny that I do feel a certain attachment to it. Plus, it does have one of the best bridges on this album with touches of cowbells of all things. Really just an average track for this band, but that alone should speak volumes as to their talent.
I don't wanna see you happier with somebody else. Oh, why can't you just be lonely, lonely?
Okay, now back to the mind-blowingly great stuff. This song tackles a very tricky emotion to nail, basically directed at an old partner who has already moved on and found happiness. And the narrator details the situation perfectly, admitting that they did break up for a reason and that he doesn't want to get back together, even admitting that he was the main reason the relationship didn't work out. And yet, when he sees this girl, he feels terrible because she's happy. It's like if the bitch who was narrating Want You Back by Cher Lloyd was self-aware and honest about her emotions, admitting her jealousy and, oh I don't know, not trying to ruin your ex's life. This narrator simply contents himself with expressing these complicated feelings, asking, despite himself, why this old flame of his can't just stay lonely, because whether he likes to admit it or not, it all feels a little too soon for him. Breathtaking, beautiful song with some phenomenal and organic instrumentation, and a Gregorian choir at the end to boot. Wow.
There's no place like home.
Finally, we have our closing track, and it's honestly very similar to the opener. Amazing, orchestral, feeling like one of the best closers an album could have that only Marianas Trench could pull off, and at the same time, when placed next to Skin and Bones, End of an Era, and especially Masterpiece Theatre 3, it does fall a little short. Again, they have done better, but on its own, it's still an amazing song and a great way to end off this album. So, that was my review for Ever After, and if I seemed negative, I am sorry. The fact is, the album is ambitious and a little messy. The story is pretty cool, ending with the revolution and the Queen being overthrown, and Josh and Porcelain deciding to stay in Toyland. But I do stand by what I said, it's a tad unnecessary. The album honestly does work better as a straightforward story about a broken relationship. The hooks are still amazing though, and the writing is extremely grand in a good way while still fitting a pop mold. And while there are one or two weaker songs this time round, none of them are bad and the album is still an incredible listen. So yeah, ultimately, strong 9 out of 10. Definitely check it out. Some critics may tell you to skip it in favor of their better albums, but in my opinion, it's still definitely worth your time. So, thank you guys for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. If you're wondering why I'm still wearing the same clothes in this video, it's because I'm actually moving house today, meaning I had to film the record roundup and this back to back. And my next album review, Astoria, will probably be filmed in this new location. That'll be followed by more record roundup, followed by the year-end list. So, please subscribe so you don't miss a thing, and until the next time, I'm Finn, and this is The Social Tunes, signing off.